Over the past month, we traveled deep into space to try our hand at Gaia Project, the sequel to the highly acclaimed game Terra Mystica. After landing back on Earth, we have to say we are truly impressed by Gaia Project, but more on that coming up. Gaia Project is designed by Jens Drögemüller and Helge Ostertag and published by Feuerland Spiele in Germany. The game plays with 1 to 4 players and takes about 40 minutes per player. Our thoughts on Gaia Project come after 6 plays with 2 players. We started off with a decent background knowledge of Terra Mystica. We played it several times 3 years ago and still roughly knew the rules, and we enjoyed our time with Terra Mystica, which made us really excited to try out Gaia Project. First of all, as for the components, the material changed from wooden pieces in Terra Mystica to plastic rubbery pieces in Gaia Project. We were concerned at first that the new components might feel a little bit cheap, but the plastic structures look and feel really great. Even the markers have a nice weight to them. The overall look of the game fits perfectly to the space setting. The rulebook is long, but we found it to be well written, and especially with having played Terra Mystica, the rules were really fine to understand. There are 3 rules which were more difficult to understand, but more on that later. We do believe that the rulebook may be overwhelming for players who have never heard of Terra Mystica or of its power cycle, and for players who are new to heavier games. The iconography was nicely and intuitively designed, with one exception that we always had to take some time to think about and double check, which is the symbol for gaining victory points. It's the same symbol just in different colors for either getting victory points immediately, for getting points every time a specific action is carried out, or for getting points at the end of the round. We for some reason always had to pause for a second to remember what the green or gray or red symbol meant. As in Terra Mystica, but this time in space, you'll want to spread your faction out across the galaxy, use your faction's special ability, which are all completely different from one another, and gain the most victory points over the course of 6 rounds. There are many rule details and a lot going on in this game, which is why we'll give only a quick overview here. A round starts with the income phase. You'll receive credits, ore, knowledge, and maybe power tokens and power steps, or charging power. Credits and ore can be used to build structures. A structure chain starts with a mine, which must be placed on a planet suitable for your faction, meaning that you might have to spend additional ore to terraform a planet to make it livable. A mine can then be upgraded into a trading station, which can again be upgraded to a planetary institute, thereby unlocking your faction's special ability, or to a research station, which lies on the knowledge side of your faction board. When you place a structure from your faction board onto a planet, you will reveal a special field that gives you more income of one type depending on the structure built. In addition to building structures on various planets, you'll also want to use the power cycle for important extra actions, and will want to use knowledge to learn new skills in one of the 6 research areas, or you'll want to Gaia form the so-called transdim planets, the purple ones. And that's a lot to think about and to balance in the 6 rounds of play. Completely fulfilling all of these actions can't be accomplished in just one play of the game, so you'll likely have a lot of tough decisions to make, and will have to decide on which areas to focus on in order to be most successful. That's Gaia Project in a nutshell. Many ways to go, many things to consider, but still overall your options are very clear and easy to understand. It's putting everything together that's the tricky part. Gaia Project is a smooth game that is definitely hard to master. So how does Gaia Project compare to its predecessor? Well, Gaia Project still feels like Terra Mystica, but it's further developed. There are more parts that are variable and can be exchanged. For example, the main map board with the different planets is made up of several individual pieces, and these pieces can be easily exchanged and rearranged to form a new arrangement of planets. The famous power cycle was taken over from Terra Mystica, and is again one of the harder parts of the games to master, especially because now Gaia forming, one of the new actions in Gaia, is directly connected to the power cycle. Gaia forming was therefore one of the least used and most difficult parts of the game for us. It's difficult to see any advantage of Gaia forming when you first start playing, because you most likely have to slow down your power cycle in order to Gaia form. We didn't even go near Gaia forming until our 5th play. Whether or not you would go for Gaia forming felt like it was very dependent on your faction and their abilities. The complexity of Gaia Project was also raised by the addition of more research areas that you can climb up over time, and we really enjoyed this part of the game where you can get stronger and stronger in certain areas and can gain more abilities. Also, the federation formation process was changed. Forming a federation, where you connect several of your planets of a certain minimum strength, has several special rules, and also involves taking a federation token which can be later used to make the final step on one of the research tracks or to take an advanced tech tile from the research board. These options can theoretically be combined, as long as you have enough unused federation tokens. And this was a bit confusing to grasp at first, especially because you can possibly take an advanced tech tile on one of the research tracks, which may then trigger the ability to make the final step on a different research track. And lastly, connected to Gaia forming, it was sometimes puzzling when a planet counted as colonized or can be used as a new starting point to spread out and build new structures. For example, for the faction Ivits, this was especially confusing because their space stations did not count as colonized, but did count as a point from where you can settle. All other factions might have questions here and there, but normally all questions that came up could be answered and found in the rulebook. So overall, as a Terra Mystica owner, in Gaia Project you will get a further developed game with increased complexity, more diversity, and new factions. Over the course of our 6 games, we played with 12 of the 14 different factions in order to get the best possible feeling for the amount of variety presented by these different factions. We were surprised at how extremely different each of these factions played, and how much fun it was to concentrate on a different set of tactics for each unique faction. The Terrans, for example, are able to Gaia form more easily, and the Ivits, a swarm-like faction, spread out from one single point on the map with the help of space stations. Depending on which faction we were playing with, we often ignored complete parts of some research areas on the research board and adjusted our tactics accordingly. We didn't encounter any balancing issues with the different factions, but we did find that some factions are more straightforward to play as compared to others. And because Gaia Project is an expert game, sometimes for one player things just do not work out at all, which can be frustrating, especially when your opponent is rolling along with no major problems at all. And believe me, I know this from experience. And because the round scoring tiles, final scoring tiles, and also the round booster markers are randomly picked at the start of the game, the strength of a particular faction is always situational. We would say that you need at least 3 games to estimate which faction is a better pick based on the starting conditions of the game. But this is definitely one of our favorite parts of the game. Once we finished playing, we were already looking forward to the next game to try out a new faction. So the replayability of Gaia Project is incredible. We feel like we have just scratched the surface after 6 plays. There is so much more we want to try. We each have 8 other factions to test out. And even then, we still want to try to improve on our performance with some of our favorite and most exciting factions. In terms of player interaction, there's only a limited amount in the game. You can, of course, block other people from building on a particular planet. In nearly all cases, a planet can have only one structure on it. You can get building bonuses from being in near proximity to the structures of other players. And you do fight over the special action spaces, which can be activated only once per round by only one player, so there some blocking can occur. But other than that, the game is mostly a player focusing on building up their own faction. This is solely a 2-player review, and the game certainly works great at 2, but we do believe that the game will also work with more players, especially because the map and amount of available planets scales with player count. Using the special action spaces will become more competitive, which most likely makes the game more difficult and tighter, more tense with more players. We were happy playing with only 2 players because of the length of the game. Our first game took 2 hours, and after that we reached an average playing time of about 70 minutes. So you can easily estimate a playing time of 40 minutes per player, thus making a 4-player game pretty lengthy. This might not be for everyone, especially there can be a lot of downtime between turns. So overall, we really loved Gaia Project. We love how smooth it feels, we love how much there is to discover, and we love the feeling of having still more than enough content to get to explore, even after 6 plays of the game, or about 8 hours of playing. Gaia Project is a complex Eurogame from top to bottom. The player interaction is slim, and it can be on the longer side in terms of playing time. But if you don't mind these factors, then Gaia Project is also for you. It has turned out to be one of our all-time favorite games. The price tag is high, but it is totally worth it. We will definitely be keeping Gaia Project in our collection.
Thank you for watching Games Up. See you next time.